Sahana vavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Saha viryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma vidvishavahai Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. We shall chant Bhaja Govindam verses 21 till the end. We shall start with the first verse. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte San Nihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jathare Shayanam Iha Samsare Bahudustare Kripaya Pare Pahi Murare Rathyacarpata Virachita Kanthaha Punya Punyavi Varjita Panthaha Yogi Yogani Yojita Chetto Ramate Balon Matavadeva Kastvam Koham Kuta Ayataha Kame Janani Kome Tataha Iti Paribhavaya Sarvamasaram Vishwam Tyatva Swapna Vicharam Tvayi Mai Chanya Traiko Vishnuhu Vyartham Kopyasi Maya Sahishnuhu Bhavasamachitaha Sarvatra Tvam Vanchasya Chira Dhyadi Vishnu Tvam Shatrau Mitre Putre Bandhau Ma Kuru Yatnam Vigraha Sandhau Sarvasminnapi Pashyatmanam Sarvatrotsraja Bhedagyanam Kamam Krodham Lobham Moham Tyaktvatmanam Pashyati Soham Atmajnanavi Hina Mudha Te Pachante Narakarnigudha Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram Dhyeyam Shripati Rupamajasram Neyam Sajjana Sange Chetam Deyam Dinaja Naya Chavetam Sukhata Kriyate Rama Bhogaha Paschadantasha Rire Rogaha Yadhyapi Loke Maranam Sharanam Tadapi na Munchati Papacharanam अर्थमनर्थं भावय नित्यं नास्ति ततः सुख लेश सत्यं पुत्रादपि धन भाजां भीतिः सर्वत्रैषा विहिता रीतिः प्राणायामं प्रत्याहारं नित्यानित्यविवेकविचारं जाप्यसमेतसमाधिविधानं कुर्ववधानं महधवधानम् गुरुचरणाम्बुज निर्भरभक्तः संसाराद्यचिराद्भवमोक्तः सेन्द्रियमानस नियमादेवं द्रक्ष्यसि निजहृदयस्थं देवम् भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि रक्षति डुक्रिंकरणे नहि रक्षति डुक्रिंकरणे नहि रक्षति डुक्रिंकरणे. Hari Om, everyone. We shall begin the session today with the 25th verse. So, if I can lead you all to the 25th verse, let's chant 25th verse twice together. Shatrau mitre putre bandhau ma kuru yatnam vigraha sandhau sarvasminnapi pashyatmanam sarvatrotsruja bhedajnanam. Shatrau mitre putre bandhau ma kuru yatnam vigraha sandhau sarvasminnapi pashyatmanam sarvatrotsruja bhedajnanam. The title given to this verse is Beyond All the Sense of Difference. So what are the various differences we see in our relationships? So the Guru here strongly advises us not to get into any hostility or any friendship with an enemy, a friend, a relative, or a son. Shatrau, mitre, putre, bandhau. Instead, he says, see the self in everything. See the self everywhere. Sarvasminnapi pashyatmanam. Atmanam. See the self. Pashyati. See. Cast away the ignorance which is causing the diversity. Sarvatrotsruja bheda ajnanam. It is the ajnanam that causes the diversity. It is the ignorance that is causing all these diverse relationships between you and the world. So here he is talking about the 4 different relationships. Now, whenever the Shastras talk of any concept, what we got to understand is you got to take an aspect and magnify it as a whole. Take a part and expand it. So when they talk of the 4 relationships, He is talking from the very closest to the most distant relationship one invariably has in our lives. So what is the most closest of the four? He says a son, your own son or a daughter. So that is the closest. And the most furthest is a shatrau, an enemy. And then it goes from the closest to the most furthermost. Now you can add umpty number of relationships that you can add into this large cross-section of relationships you have with people. And fundamentally, we got to understand all these relationships. He mentions four. You can create umpty number of relationships. All the relationships you have with the variety of people will fall under someone who is very close to you or someone who is very distant from you. Now he says all this diverse relationships, the diversity, this which causes diversity is avidya. Avidya is ignorance. Now ignorance is a very broad term, is a very broad philosophical term. In fact, it's an answer can be used for many answers. If you ask me, what is the cause for the creation of this world? I would say avidya. So you're not wrong to say avidya. What is the synonym of avidya? You can say vasanas are also is avidya. So what I'm trying to tell is, this word avidya doesn't really help us. How does ignorance of the self manifests in creating a diverse relationships with people out there? Now, when I see so many of you all on the screen. Now, when I see you all on the screen, I see different personalities, different individuals. Now, do I create a relationship amongst you all? Me amidst you? So someone who is very close to me, or someone who is so-so, or someone who is very distant to me. I am in fact asking myself, what is this person doing here? Because is this person so distant to me? Is he having any motive? Why is he coming here? So when I look at you all, what am I seeing? Am I creating a relationship, the different relationships that's possible, or am I seeing the common denominator, the Atman, the self, the reality, which is there everywhere? That is what he's saying. Sarvasminnapi pashyatmanam. In everything, you must be able to see pashya. Pashya here is the perception. Perception here is not the physical perception, my dear, we're talking about. It is not what you see. When they talk of perception, they're talking of a divine perception. They're talking of a divine eye. They're talking of the third eye. They're talking of looking at the world from a totally different angle, from a totally different perspective. So when you look at people, what do you see? Are you identifying with the underlying reality, which is the Atman? Or are you identifying with the various personalities, the various, in fact, that difference, he says, the differences you are creating in the relationships arises because of the ignorance of the self. You do not have that knowledge or experience of that self, which creates this ignorance, the diversity, the multifold plurality. So the pluralistic phenomenon of seeing things and beings, of seeing multitudes of things and beings, arises because of the ignorance of the self. Now, I have not helped any further. I'm just trying to use the language of the Shastras. I'm just going by what Adi Shankaracharya is saying till now. Avidya, ignorance of the self, creates diversity, creates multitudes of relationships. You get into trouble. Therefore, he says, give up this avidya, see the truth everywhere, man. Okay, I'm done. Let's move on. Verse 26. If we do that, don't worry, I'm not going to go on. Huh? So please, those who are controlling, please don't move on to verse 26. We have not done yet. Now, if you just read by the face value what is presented, there is no much help. It will not help. What the difference you got to draw is, there is this pure philosophy, and then you got to draw out the applicability, the application. You got to draw what is known as the applied philosophy. And that is where you will need someone to understand and put it in our contemporary thought and language. You must understand, this was understood by those who were with Adi Shankaracharya. So this was very much their language. But sadly, it is not our language. Imagine, it's in fact like me speaking in Russian or Spanish. I spoke. You may see the sentiment of little emotion, but then you don't understand what it is. Similarly, you must try to always look at the applicability. When you look at the applicability of this knowledge, then it becomes okay. When you look at the applicability of this knowledge, what does this knowledge become? So some of you were thinking, okay, he's already started his questions. Wisdom is a little further, sir. Siddharamanji is saying, when you look at the applicability of knowledge, he says it's wisdom. Wisdom is little further. Ushama is saying experience also is wisdom. I think it's a little, it culminates in experience of wisdom. But when I'm even receiving this knowledge, you should not ever go from an absolute standpoint. You must always try to come from a relative standpoint. A relative standpoint is known as the applicability. You're talking of application. That is when knowledge enters into your lives. That is when knowledge starts translating your actions, changes your perception. It helps you. That is when you start understanding. Yes. Now, the word which I was looking for, when you look at the applicability of this knowledge, practical is application. That is known as a sadhana. You are all spiritual sadhaks, aren't you? Aren't we all spiritual sadhaks? Shouldn't we be looking at how can I apply this module? How can I apply this principle in my lives? And not get caught up in the diverse relationships of people, because the moment you get caught up in these relationships, you are in trouble, isn't it? The moment you create a relationship where there is only needs to be the truth or the common reality, you create an enemy or a friend or a son, you're in trouble. So now the question is, how do you translate avidya? So first, before I get into that, you may wonder, sir, how is it that I am having a relationship with an enemy? I don't want to have any relationship. The only way you have a relationship with an enemy is you can never forget that fellow. You're not able to let go of that thought of that person in your mind. So as long as you entertain the thoughts of that person in your bosom, in your mind, in your heart, you're having a relationship with that person. Because a relationship is nothing but a flow of your thoughts. When your thoughts or feelings are flowing towards a person or a being, you are in a relationship. It's a mental here. We're not talking about any physical relationship here. You're talking about a mental relationship, how you create that. So the mental relationship is when you think of a person, and when there's a hatred, a bitterness, an animosity, an anger, you don't want to, you have no liking for that person. You only have that hatred and bitterness. You're already having a relationship with that person. And sadly, those emotions seem to overwhelm one's personality, isn't it? They seem to overpower your personality. They seem to, if I were to ask you in a day, what's the percentage of positive feelings? What's the percentage of negative feelings? What is the percentage of positive thoughts? What is the percentage of negative thoughts you entertain when you talk of people? Can you throw any percentage? What's the average thoughts that come? How many positive, how many negative? Whether be it emotions, whether be it thoughts. என்ன சிவா, எவ்வளோ பாசிட்டிவ் எவ்வளோ நெகட்டிவ் சொல்லுங்க. Oh my God. Yes, sir. I didn't expect this answer from you. நீங்க சொன்னீங்கன்னா, where are we? We are all way behind somewhere. 70 I know you're having a good light-hearted note, you said that, but imagine if one's personality is opared with obviously it varies according to your experiences. It is subjective to individual, but on an average you should know what kind of a person you are. Like I went to the bank today and I had to wait in the queue outside the bank. The security guard is not even allowing you into the bank premises. So which meant I had to stand over 10 minutes outside the bank and then go. There's a big notice, due to the current scenario, the staff is only half strength. So we will only be providing limited services, which meant another half an hour was added to the work which I had to get it done. Now, when all that is happening, I'm exposing myself to all the possible, which I wouldn't want to expose myself. And during that time, what are my thoughts? Am I cursing the system? Am I accepting and accommodating? What is happening within me? I need to be mindful. The same situation, how do you react? It's up to you. You don't blame the situation, isn't it? So enmity is a relationship is because your thoughts are going. Let's establish that. Now, having established, let's get into the actual, what is it that creates this? So the avidya in the context, what is it that creates these diverse relationships? Avidya, the ignorance, expresses in the form of your own selfishness. Remember this, as long as you establish a relationship with a certain axe to grind, as we say, if you have a certain axe to grind, if you have a certain underlying expectation or something you want out of that person, you have created a relationship, whether it is close or distant. So the moment you have no axe to grind, if there is no expectation, what would happen? You are equal to all, isn't it? I have nothing to gain or to lose. I am not a taker in that relationship. I don't qualify you into any bracket. But the moment I become a giver, instantly I see every one of you as all one and the same. Like if I take, think from my point of view, if I am a taker sitting here, and if I look at each one of you all as potential for me, would I not relate with each one of you differently because you are in some way or other satisfying my personal end? Isn't it? But if I am a giver, I have something that I want to share, and I'm sharing it with an open heart to one and all, I don't see any difference, isn't it? Would I see any difference? So the whole objective of this relationship is, if you move out of selfishness, automatically you're able to remove the diversity, the plurality, the differences. I came across a beautiful saying a while ago, and the message was, the most selfish thing we can do, the quote said, the most selfish thing we can do is to be unselfish. Is because it totally frees me. I have to be very selfish to be unselfish. So wanting to be unselfish can be the most selfish thought. I want to be unselfish. I want to be a giver. All the time the thought is, I want to be a giver. I don't want to be a taker. So the moment you think in that sense, what does it do? It liberates you from the complications. Now, all your life, your life is nothing but, isn't your life defined by the relationships? And the fundamental thumb rule of a relationship is whether you are a giver or a taker. Remember that. And that seals it, that makes it. So if you have this attitude of a giver, you will see the oneness everywhere. If you have the attitude of a taker, you're only segregating yourself, separating yourself. Now, just to make it a little more deeper, you go a little more intricate into the concept. Let's say if I identify with my physical body. As you know, a human being consists of a physical body, has got the emotional aspect, the mind, the rational or the intellectual aspect, the intellect. So he's got a physical body, a mind, and intellect. It's a very broad definition of a human being. Now, when I identify with my body, everybody is other than me, isn't it? When I identify with my physical personality, you're all other than me, isn't it? Even when I'm sitting with my family on the dining table, I'm only thinking of my physical needs. So I would want to grab a little more for myself because I'm more hungry. So in the process of being more hungry, I want to eat a little more. Then I'm not concerned if it is anything left for others. So the moment I identify with my body, there is a separateness, there's a greater difference. Now the moment I identify not with my body, I identify with my mind. What happens? Then from my body, from my physical needs, it becomes my family. We're all one family. So if you get more than me, you're able to sacrifice. A true mother does, doesn't she? She is able to sacrifice. She goes to great length, prepare something which is loved by the family. And the family is so, and as a true mother, she goes about serving everyone. She waits until everyone is served, contented, and then she would want to have. And in the process, her heart is so big, she's never even thought of herself. She's never kept anything for herself. And the family is so enjoying, she served everyone. And at the end of it, she just has a piece of bread or a fruit or a glass of milk and she's done with it. She doesn't even announce to the family that she didn't have any bit of it. Where does she get that joy from? She has sacrificed her physical comforts, her physical conveniences she sacrificed. But where does the joy come from? Why is she that so happy? Where does the joy come from? I only want to hear from you all, only to ensure that whether you're following me. There's no other way I can ensure you are following me. Where does the joy come from? Annapurnama, you want to say something? Okay. Just a minute.
Joy comes from giving.
Yes, in fact, that is in fact, you know, the real quintessence of the Shastras is this. The joy is in giving, is to experience that. But would you give it to your neighbors? Would you give it to strangers? Now, in the example, when I think of myself, I'm not able to identify with the family. But as a mother, she finds great joy. Where does the joy come from? Where she can even go beyond her physical comforts and conveniences? What is it that gives her joy? The joy, what you gather from here is, she identifies with the family. As people have said, the joy of giving, rightly so, the love you have for the family. What you only establish is the joy. Two things we establish. The joy in giving is superior to the joy of taking. Point one. That's what Annapurnama said. The joy of giving any day is greater than the joy of taking any day. You got to experience it. And the moment you become a giver, you would not want to be a taker. You are a sinner. You would commit a sin being a taker. So you would always want to take the position of a giver. In any relationship, be a giver. You'll find your life is full of bliss and happiness. Secondly, what we also learn from this example is when you move from the physical to the emotional, the joy is far greater. The emotional joy is far superior to the physical joy, is far superior to the material joy. So as you grow, go beyond the material to the physical, from the physical to the emotional, the joy increases. Okay. She is being identified as Sham's iPhone. If there's a way you change it to Tinky, you please do that, ma. Yeah. So can she be given the access? Yes, ma.
So in this concept of taking and giving is the joy of giving is so much more. So now as we are, attending your discourses and we are learning from you, we are going on taking and you are the giver.
Okay.
So we are getting great joy in taking, contrary to what is being expressed. It may not total the joy you experience in giving, but in this equation between a guru and a shishya, how do we experience the joy of giving?
A very good observation, and I must commend you for the clarity with which you asked the question. Now, I do not know whether I have an answer for it, but I'll attempt. Okay. Now, see, the knowledge in the Gita, elsewhere in the Gita scriptures, he said, this knowledge is actually not designed for the non-sacrifices. This knowledge only serves the sacrifices. So if you are a part of this journey, as I see some of them keep greeting, welcome to the wisdom parivar. It's a new terminology. We are all one large wisdom family, seeking this eternal wisdom, seeking this Sanatana Dharma. So the fact that you belong or you find yourself consistently is not you're a passing visitor. You find yourself drawn to it. It in itself justifies that you are not a taker but a giver. Because if you are not a giver, you will not find yourself drawn to it. It's like bees are drawn to honey. You see? So that is point one. Secondly, you must consciously entertain and express this feeling of being grateful or that attitude of gratitude. Now, please mark my words. I said one must, because you asked precisely in the relationship of a guru and a student, because that's the relationship we all are having now. From what is the attitude of a student to the guru? The relationship must be an attitude of gratitude. It is an attitude. When I say an attitude, because your act, it is not measured by the act, but the thought. But for some reason, you're not able to express that feeling of gratitude, you would not go wrong. So that attitude expresses as an action, it is the readiness to serve. And as they say, charity begins at home. So if you want to go out into the world and spread this knowledge and serve humanity at large, first, don't be ungrateful to the very source. Be grateful to the guru. Like if I want to serve humanity, if I want to serve people out there, you may ask me, how am I serving my own immediate family first? Am I providing? Am I taking care? What is my feeling towards my parents? Don't they say, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, and then comes Acharya Devo Bhava, isn't it? How do I treat my own parents first? Do I have a sense of respect and gratitude and thankfulness to my parents? Do I serve them? If I have picked up my parents and put them in an orphanage, in an old folks home, or in some place where they are taken care of, and I'm able to write a check for 1 year and say, oh, I don't have to worry for them for 1 year. Are you bothered or concerned? What is their mindset? How are they feeling? What are their feelings? See, that is not what I can't claim to be serving if I have not even considered that. So a shishya and a guru relationship is a very, very divine relationship. It's one of the best of all relationships. And unless until you become a shishya, you don't understand what it is to be with a guru, to receive his grace and his blessings and that wisdom. And since you mention of it, I'm inspired by that great relationship, an often misunderstood relationship between a student and a guru, which is the relationship between Ekalavya and Dronacharya. That is perhaps the best relationship, which epitomizes a relationship between a shishya to a guru. Now, since you ask, and I will have to dwell into it, give me a few minutes. I know you wanted to clarify something, Ma. I'll come back to you, but let me give this story because it's a very often misunderstood aspect in our literature, in the Shastras. As you know, Dronacharya was a great guru, was a great archer, and he is the one who taught this knowledge of archery to Arjuna and others. So, knowing of the stature of Dronacharya, a student called Ekalavya approaches the guru with an earnest desire to learn this knowledge of archery. And Dronacharya found more than one reason to reject Ekalavya. So he said, you are not worthy of being taught. On whatever grounds, he said, I will not teach you. I'm not going into the detail. You know the story. What you will be interested is the philosophical message, which I'll get it. So Ekalavya, what he did, he did not belittle the guru because the guru didn't teach him the knowledge. He still, in the heart of hearts, considered Dronacharya as his guru. So the story goes, he goes into the woods, he carves a statue out of a wood, Dronacharya statue, and he learned that knowledge of archery from a statue. That tells how much Shraddha the student had. We were mentioning of this concept of Shraddha other day's class. This is Shraddha. So he taught that knowledge, he taught himself with the inspiration from a statue. Now, having learned that knowledge, as a true student, he went back to the guru to adakshanam. So he went back to the Guru Dronacharya and said, I want to give adakshanam. He said, what is it you want to give? I said, sir, I want to give Guru Dakshanam. I said, what Guru Dakshanam? I didn't teach you. So what Guru Dakshanam talking about? Then he said, no. I made a statue of yours and I learned. So I want to pay you back. I don't want to owe anything to a guru. To which he said, okay. Then he asked him, are you a right-hander or left-hander? He said, I'm a right-hander. Then he said, cut your right thumb and give me. No questions asked. He took a knife and cut his thumb and gave him. And this is the most misunderstood aspect in the Shastras. First of all, a guru had the so-called arrogance not to teach him on certain grounds. And when a student comes back with such humility and gratitude to pay back to what something he has learned out of you encash it by taking away the thumb from him. You know, giving away thumb is actually giving up archery itself. I don't know if you have ever attempted to play this game of archery. You know, you have this many areas where you can go and practice archery. It's a game, it's a sport kind of a thing, you know. A whole entire archery is based on the thumb holding the arrow and then you release the arrow, isn't it? And you give away a thumb, you have actually given away archery. Now what Dronacharya had done is to Ekalavya, by taking away the thumb, he's actually done a far greater service to Ekalavya than teaching archery to everybody else. By taking away the thumb of Ekalavya, what Dronacharya has done is, Dronacharya has given moksha to Ekalavya. And this is the section in the 18th chapter of the Gita. He says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja aham tva sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami masuchaha. This is a verse which clearly says, you renounce all your dharmas, renounce all your vasanas, surrender to me, to the Guru, he says. And then the Guru says, Aham tva, I will get rid of your last sin, the last obstacle. Mokshayishyami masuchaha. Ekalavya had only one thought, which was the thought of archery, which was between him and realization. What the Guru did, removed that last thought. That's about all. So the service a Guru does is unparalleled. The dedication to the length which a Guru goes to transform you is unparalleled. You would not understand. You're only carried away by the acts. As Shakespeare says, I'm cruel only to be kind. You don't understand the kindness. You're caught away with the cruelty. So a true student is always ready to serve. And I am serving this cause lifelong. I'll serve this cause because I'm grateful to the knowledge I've been receiving. I've received from my Guru, from all the Gurus. Endaro Mahanubhavulu, Andariki na Vandanamulu. Isn't that beautiful Carnatic song? And in fact, these were the chosen words of Muhammad on his deathbed. When Muhammad was on his deathbed, few students went to him and asked, what is your parting message to us, O Master? And Muhammad said to them, he is best amongst you all who is best at repaying. He is best amongst you all who is best at repaying. Never owe anything to anyone. Give back, give back, give back. So the fact that you are here, Ma, justifies that you are a giver. The fact that this knowledge resonates with you, you are a giver. And if you want the knowledge to serve to you, be a giver. No doubt you are a taker, but the knowledge itself transforms you to be a giver. If you have the right attitude, just because something is coming without a tag, let me take as much as possible. If that is the attitude, it's like when you go to an occasion or a marriage or a function, it's all the best of food without a bill to pay. How would you treat that food? Would you just, I know people take plates for each. For starters, they just take one plate. For the main course, another plate. For the dessert, another plate. And they know very well the number of plates are being counted. That means it's that many number of times they have to pay. And yet they just use that as an opportunity to try. Oh, I never tried this. Let me try. I take a bite. It's not good. It's discarded. Is this how you treat something which is being given with love? Somebody is invited you. This is how you abuse it. Just because somebody is giving it, don't grab it. Don't encash it. You approach it with great grandeur. You must have the grandeur of it's very difficult to receive something without encashing it. Remember this. It is very difficult to receive anything without encashing it. When you give love to me, I should not encash your love. That makes me a taker. When I'm giving this knowledge, you must not encash this knowledge. That will make you a taker. So I am a giver, so must you be a giver. So let's not encash each other. And let's grow in this wonderful attitude of being a giver. Yes, Ma, you have anything to say, please? I know you had something to clarify. Yes, please.
Yeah, so you mentioned that what we are getting, if we encash it, that makes us a taker. So one thing is, because I have been, really enjoying these sessions so much, that I have, shared this little bit, talked to a lot of people who I feel are interested in the spiritual path. And some of them have even joined. So does that mean I'm encashing? I only felt if I am enjoying something, why should others not enjoy it? They're not even aware that it exists. Does that make me a taker?
If you had not told anyone and kept it to yourself, then you're a taker. The fact that you had tasted something which you believe is beautiful and it's serving you and it should be benefited by as many as possible. So aren't you not sharing that joy with others? It's like a child has got a new toy. Everyone who comes to the house, he goes and says, I got a new toy, I got a new toy. The child is so much happy to share that joy with others. What's wrong with that? And the same child is fighting or holding on to the toy because his sibling wants it. What's the emotion? Then there's a fight. Nah, it's mine. It's not yours. It's mine. Mommy gave to me on my birthday, not your birthday. It's mine. The moment you hold on to it with arrogation and not wanting to part, there's a frown, there's a frustration, there's a friction in a relationship between your own spouse. Your own spouse has become an enemy. Isn't that what we have come down to? You may not be fighting for a toy, you may be fighting for a piece of land or something valuable out there. And in that relationship, in that greed of wanting to acquire it, you have broken a lifelong relationship. So what matters is that you want that much for yourself. I want to grab that. And it brings the worst out of you. It brings the devil out of you. So does that resonate well with you, Ma? Yes. So the thought has brought us back to the text. It's your own selfishness that creates the worst of relations. You could be a lifelong friend, but there are moments that make you enemy. You will not want to see eye to eye because there's some selfishness has crept into it. It can happen in the closest of relationships, and you can forgive someone who has, in fact, what is forgiveness? Is in fact one of the best qualities to cultivate is that attitude of forgiveness. Again, it's an attitude. You don't have to go and knock at doors of people and say, I've actually forgiven you for what you have done to me that day. You don't have to do that. It's an attitude. In the heart of hearts, you have truly forgiven that person. You're not holding on that act or that moment of impulsiveness in your mind or that moment of friction in your heart and troubling yourself, hurting yourself. The moment you're able to forgive another person, instantly you are liberated. Now, what can you forgive? I come and steal your pencil. Can you forgive me for stealing your pencil? I come and steal your intellectual rights. Can you forgive me for that? I come and have a claim over your material wealth. Can you forgive me for that? When Christ was crucified on the cross, being nailed on the cross, and the greatness of the man was, he said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. That is forgiveness. So when you are being challenged by the world, bring that act of forgiveness into your heart. Embrace them with that act of forgiveness. You see that ignorance in them. You see the childishness in them, and you forgive and you grow. That is, in fact, that sign of true spiritual growth is where you're able to identify with other person. When you're selfish, you only identify with yourself. When you are unselfish, you're able to feel for other person and forgive them. So you're getting closer to the very common factor. I would say the lowest common factor, the lowest common denominator. I think in mathematics, we all learned, didn't we, LCM? What is the LCM amongst all of us? If a parent brought some sweet toys one evening to the family because he had 2 kids and he bought some sweet toys. And the toys were of different shapes and colors. One toy was of shape of a beautiful bird. Another, sugar dolls. One sugar doll was, I remember this. In fact, my mother, when I was a kid, she used to make these sugar dolls. As I'm saying this, I'm reminder of that. And for Diwali time, I think so. She used to make the achu. We call it in Telugu achu. I don't know what you call in Tamil. So the dye, and she had sugar. She will mix it with water with right proportion, and she will stuff it into it and hold it for a while and remove it and then let it dry. And then she will paint them with different color parrots and lions and deers and dogs and whatnot, or dolls, everything, and they all were decorated for Diwali. So something like that. So this parent brought various toffees, sweets with all this sugar. And one of the fellows said, I want the lion. The other fellow also said, I also want lion. So both were going into a big fight. I also want the lion toy. This also lion doll. Both wanted lion doll. And there's only one lion doll in that collection of sweets. Now, how to give lion to both? The mother was trying to convince them. Hey, there is no difference between the lion and the parrot. Never mind, you take the parrot. No, I only want lion. Then, to teach a lesson to the kids, the parent called the kids here. Okay, come, you ignoramuses, you childish balaha. The famous words of the Shastras of the Mahatmas are balaha. Bala means spiritual children. So the parent called the two kids fighting over that specific sugar doll, got in a tumbler of water, and put the sugar doll into that water. No sooner it melted, brought the next doll, melted, entire sugar candies, all of them melted. And then the kids understood what they were fighting over. And then they drank that water, sugar water. It made no difference. So we are getting caught up in what? We are getting caught up in, what is that word in the Shastra they use? We are all caught up in dash. Someday we should have some kind of a quiz, Other day I was talking with someone, they were saying we do a lot of Vedanta quiz. So if you all are ready for it, one day we'll play a quiz. We are very good at that. We don't give multiple choices there. We only give fill in the blanks. The famous, okay, we are all caught up in dash. Likes and dislikes. Rajima is saying, in your own Brahma, very nice word. Ushama, Moha, Maya, Samsara, worldly attachments, Maya. Can you think along with me, please? We are not talking of Raga Dvesha. We are not talking of attachments. Nama Rupa. Who said that? Uma Sumedha. Do I see you? Why is it you people don't switch on your cameras? I would love to see you all. No. Sethuramanje, avidya. No, it's not. No. It's not that. Why are you not switching on your cameras? I get an answer, avidya. It's not that. Please don't mistake Sethuramanje for that. I don't think he's meaning that. But correct answer. What the kids were caught up is all sugar. The lowest common multiple. That's what Harishji said. The lowest LCM is the lowest common multiple. So the LCM in all the sugar dolls was, they're all sugar, man. Yet the kids were lost in Nama Rupa. Nama Rupa means the names and forms. So another word for the world is Nama Rupa. You're just caught up in the names and forms. If you feel very wise now and feel very wise over the kids who are fighting over the names and forms of a sugar doll, take you to a bangle store. or a gold shop rather. Take you to a gold shop. And then what are you? No, I like that, not this. I like this design, not that design. What are you getting caught up in? Are you not getting carried away by the Nama Rupa? Is it not names and forms? But what is the LCM of all the, is it a bangle or an anklet or a bracelet or an earring or a nose stud or a necklace or a toe ring? What is the common LCM? They are gold. There's nothing but gold. What is the LCM between Shatrau, Mitre, Putre, Bandhau? What is the LCM of the Shatrau, Mitre, Putre, Bandhau? The Atman, the reality, the self, the consciousness, the Brahman. You will have to realize that when now you postponed it to the future, there is no future for you. You got to find that now. So you got to start looking at something beyond what you're seeing in a relationship now. So that which is creating an otherness, you got to create a commonness in that relationship and rise beyond the difference and the demarcations you're creating. Go beyond the demarcations. It is all your own creation. It is self-created. Yeah, there's a beautiful example which conveys this. A young prince, he wanted to see himself from all angles before he presented himself in the darbar. So he got himself a specific room made of mirrors. He entered and then the door was closed just for a short while before he presented himself in the darbar in front of everyone, in front of the subjects. He entered into a mirror room, because even after the door was closed, there was a mirror on behind the door as well. So all the walls, the floor and the roof was full of mirror. So when the prince entered that mirror room, what did he see? He saw himself reflected in multitudes of reflections, isn't it? He saw himself everywhere. And he found himself decked up right from the head to the toe. He found every ornament, everything that was decked up was presentable. He found himself fit to be presentable, and he walked out like a royalty, like a prince. And somebody forgot to close the door. And actually the pet of the prince, he had a pet dog. The dog entered that room. Not a stray dog. How can a stray dog enter the interior chambers of the prince? The dog of the prince, pet dog, entered. And for a moment it saw many dogs with him, around them. And it started barking. And the very same moment, all the dogs started barking. It started pouncing on them. All of the dogs started pouncing on him. And that same momentum carried on until the dog got into a serious fight with the other dogs, and it got into a serious brawl with them, and it got itself killed, and it was in a pool of blood. Now, what is the difference? Whether are we approaching the world as that ignorant dog, or are we relating to the world like that wise prince? And sorry to say, we are somewhere between the dog and the prince. It is for you to find out where you are. The moment you see a difference, you'll only see a conflict, you'll only see an otherness, you'll only see a bitterness. The moment you see the self everywhere, there's only one and the same reality. Now, the real acid test is how do you deal with people? That's important, isn't it? That's a real acid test. Now, it happens at times. I don't know I'm sure it happens to you also. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing exclusive to me. It happens to many people. Everybody, I'm sure. Sometimes, when you are, as I'm talking, the number of times my tongue has come in between the teeth. Every time I'm speaking, my tongue is dynamically adjusting itself to it happens so involuntary. I'm not even conscious of it. But at times, it does happen, isn't it? The teeth go and bite the tongue. And then, it starts bleeding. It's so painful. Would you take a knife and cut off that tongue which came in between the teeth? Because the teeth is very dear to you. Or if the tongue is very dear to you, take a hammer and break up that particular tooth which bit the tongue. Would you do that? What would you do? Now I want you all to, not with reference to the teeth and the tongue, please. That is not the example here. That's not the message. Okay, let us get Harishji involved here. Harishji, what would you do when the teeth bites the tongue mercilessly? So much so, it is bleeding. It's hurting. What would you do? Nobody can unmute you. You are the host, sir. You have to unmute yourself. Hari Om, sir. Solungo.
I would just continue. I would pick up and continue. I would ignore the pain.
Similarly, in life, how do you translate that understanding, that acceptance to life? Isn't it an acceptance?
So you would accept the negatives or the let's say the faults or whatever it is. You will accept the negative situation and make the best of it and continue and hopefully make a positive out of it.
But when that negativity presents itself, it can come from any form, isn't it? And it does happen when you least expect it, when you're least prepared for it, isn't it? But what should you do when that presents itself? When the world presents itself in a most unpalatable way, how do you deal with that world?
The attitude that this too shall pass.
Oh my God, what a beautiful saying. This too shall pass. He is beautifully summed up all what I said. This too shall pass. Correct. Very true. There is no necessity to take it to heart, isn't it? There is no necessity for you to get emotional about it. There is no necessity for you to engender any hatred or animosity or bitterness. Understand it as a part and parcel of life and move on with life. There will be good, there will be bad, there will be praise, there will be censure, there will be joy, there will be sorrow, there will be smile, there will be frown. This is life. I don't have to like or hate the world. Now, having said that, there are these moments where the best of us will fall, isn't it? But understand that I should not hold on to that hatred or that friction or that animosity. The problem is not to not feel. Many of us do feel, but the problem is holding on to that feeling. Now, when you go to a movie, Setharaman sir, when you go to a movie, what do you see, sir, in a movie? Please don't say I don't see movies, sir. They are all very, very wise people. I don't know how to get knowledge out of them. What do you see in a movie, sir?
Action.
In a sir?
Action, drama.
Then he only sees action movies. Now, what am I asking now?
We don't see reality.
They're very much reality. A little bit here and the drama is there. They do dramatize, but a lot of it is what we see out there. But in the context of it, what I'm saying, what was I saying just now to Harishji? Accept even the bitter aspect of life and move on. But what do you see in the screen, the large screen, 70 mm screen? What do you see?
we see different emotions, drama, comedy, war, everything we accept as a play.
He is not in a good mood. He's not cooperating with me today. Now, I'll have to. Okay, yes, Harishji. No, sir. I get what you're saying. Yeah, Harishji.
Guruji, it's something which you said to me a couple of days back. That
What did I
you
say?
said that the ups and downs of life are all part of the same life. And if you hang on to the trough, you will never reach the peak.
Correct.
So if you stay in the negative, you will not experience the beauty of the positive.
Yes.
And a positive is inevitable after a negative, just as much as a negative is also inevitable after the positive.
Very true. Very true. Yes, certainly so. Certainly so. So if one has that attitude, you just let it pass, as you said earlier, isn't it? But you know what I was trying to, anybody who watches a lot of movies relate to what I'm saying? Yes, Shiva, sir. Solongo.
Yeah, opposite values are complementary, they coexist. A
Yes.
circle is complete only with both the ends of the diameter. Without a villain, movie can never be watched. Without Ravana, Ramayana may not make any sense.
This is what we are talking. I want to talk of movies. Ningala periya philosophy பேசுறீங்க. I want to talk of movies. Yes, sir. Correct, Shiva. There is no movie maja without a villain. You know, in fact, this afternoon I was just getting to catching my usual nap, and this afternoon or recently, yesterday maybe, and there was a movie that was being watched, and my daughter walks in, and she is asking, "Who is the villain? Who is the villain?" I said, I do not know who is the villain, because even the villain also is very smart here. I don't know who is villain, who is hero. And she's asking, who is the villain? Who is the villain? I said, wait, we are trying to, I am also trying to understand. I am in the same boat like you. I also, avidya only is there, all avidya in me. So I am not able to give any vidya to her. But and then the moment a little while somebody who was following the movie said, that person is the villain, this is the hero. Then you are able to follow the drama that's going on, what unfolded thereafter. Now, what I was actually trying to get at is the entire film industry, or what you see on the screen, is nothing but they magnify an emotion to a point of fault, and they feel it's quite justifiable to pursue that emotion. And they entertain that hatred, isn't it? It can be a hatred between two families, it could be hatred between two people, and it is justified, and the whole movie revolves around that negative emotion or hatred. Nobody ever tries to cultivate or portray that act of forgiveness and say, let's move on and build a new image out of that. So it's all about hatred, hatred, hatred. And why is hatred being promoted? That's the biggest thing that sells, Any gossip is all about negativity. And why does negativity sell? News is all about negativity. Anything positive, nothing sells. The media is looking for some spice or masala. So why is negativity attractive? It's very attractive. Hari sir, Solongo, why does negativity sell? Can he be given the access? Yes. You can speak, Hari sir, now. Oh no, looks like You're muted yourself.
You can hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
That is the trick of the mind. That is how the mind works.
What is the trick of the mind here?
That mostly it goes after the negative aspect.
Yeah.
And the whole study is to come out of that weakness.
Correct. Very well said. The nature of the mind is it naturally gets gravitated towards the lower. That is the very nature of the mind. As if you pour a tumbler of water on the floor, it will naturally flow towards that slope. It flows downward.
Yeah.
So the mind is like the flow of thoughts or that water flowing. It only goes towards the lower. You need to have that
Knowledge.
the wisdom, and the satsang. This is exactly what we're going through. That satsang or the sheer association or the guru or the higher knowledge and the greater wisdom gives you a conscious lift to the mind so that you're able to entertain not just positive. Here we're trying to talk in terms of, see, the Atman in others. But even before you get to the Atman, what should you see is, there's a beautiful saying. I will want to leave you all with these thoughts and perhaps let you all think about it. And I've said in the beginning of the verse that this verse is to be taken as a sadhana from a relative standpoint. So you may not be able to see the Atman in that person. It's rather too unrealistic to say see the Atman in someone. But at least you can see something other than what you're seeing. The saying is, there's so much of good in the worst of us. There is so much of good in the worst of us. There is so much of bad in the best of us. There's so much of good in the worst of us. There's so much of bad in the best of us. It doesn't behove to talk about the rest of us. I repeat, there's so much of good in the worst of us. There's so much of bad in the best of us. It doesn't behove to talk about the rest of us. So any person presents itself, you are only identifying with the quality, one aspect of a person. Try to see some other aspect of that same person. See a different flavor of a person, a different dimension of a person. And to sum up this idea, the beautiful saying which sums it up, which says, hate the sin, but not the sinner. You hate the sin, man, but you don't hate the sinner for that. Let's say a person has a particular very annoying quality, but that person is a lovely person. The quality he has is very annoying, but the person is a gem of a person. Hate the sin, hate the quality, not the personality. So if you take this approach, see the goodness in that person, hate the quality, not the personality, slowly but surely you're marching towards what the text is saying, gain that perception. Sarvasminapi pashyatmanam sarvatrotsuja bhedajnanam. You will get over the diversity, you will get over the ignorance, you will get over your own limited perception. You will start embracing the very same world that you are living in. You will start embracing the very same environment, the same relationship. It brings a great joy because your perception has changed. And if you cultivate and build your personality this way, someday you will certainly see the truth or godliness in that person. That's the culmination. But you got to start where you are. So use this verse as a sadhana. Every verse can be treated as a sadhana. Don't treat it as a matter of information. It is not a matter of fact. It's a matter of abhyasa. It can be stated as a matter of fact, or it can be treated as matter of sadhana. So there's a difference between matter of fact is known as Lakshana Vakya. This is known as a Abhyasa Vakya. So you are translating it. So with the understanding, the way we approach the verse today, you will understand what is a matter of fact has become a matter of practice. A statement of fact becomes a statement of practice. So from absolute standpoint, you approach it from a relative standpoint, and then slowly move from relative to absolute. Please ponder over these ideas. It's a very powerful message. Build on it. If you have any questions, you come back. We can always take up. And it's also interesting, if you have any case studies, we can always make this platform also a very dynamic platform, where, because it helps to unfold certain more applicable or practical aspect of this knowledge. Okay. Feel free, be more participative, get more involved. The takeaway will be far more greater. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.